Hi, aloha. Welcome to my presentation for my culminating task. It is called Time for the Minds and Heart, which is about improving advisory in fifth period. Um, of course, I am Kealohilani Lelel, and I'll be presenting today. A little background on me is that I am the middle child of three daughters, um, from a single parent home that grew up on the island of Oahu in the city of Waianae. It's on the west coast side of the island of Oahu. Practically born and raised there. Um, I am now a teacher who is teaching back at the intermediate school that kind of raised me during middle school. While in intermediate school as an eighth grade teacher. I was an eighth grade teacher in ELA and SPED during 2022-2023 school year. And now for the 23-24 school year, I will be a math teacher for eighth grade on a team that still works with some special education kids. Um, During my time at one intermediate, and also to know is that this is my first. I just got through my first year as a teacher, so this is like me really stepping out into everything and just growing from there and doing what is I feel and what I've seen is best for students. And so the thing that I'm so blessed to be part of and to still be part of is being a co-advisor of our hospitality club, that is under the direction of Tammy Cabral, who is also a student as part of the master's program. She has pulled me into so many different opportunities, and one of them is as a co-advisor for our hospitality club, where I got to see students grow from being shy, lost, to students who are now confident and feel like they're ready to take on the world. Um, this our club has allowed our students to just be who they need to be, whether it's they need better communication skills, better um, interpersonal skills, or even just the simple task of how to connect it to school, um, and that motivation of going through school. That has been such an amazing opportunity that I've so glad to have seen and grow. Um, as well as myself, I got to grow as myself on how to be a teacher, how to be a better person as an individual as well as a professional. Which also includes that not only did she put me as a co-advisor, but she also pulled me into HSTA, our Hawaii State Teacher Association, not only as a member but also as a exit board member for the Leeward chapter, as a representative for the new educators committee. And the thing that has been through that is that it taught me on how to raise teachers' voices, not only students, but teachers' voices as well, and how to just be that support for teachers so that they're able to grow as individuals and professionals so that they can support the students as well. And that's the thing that I just love during my time. And also, I am part of the Teach for America program as a core member of the 2022 year. So I just got to my first year. This will be my second year now under that program. And I'm just hoping to continue to grow. During my first year under that program, I also got to be a support for the next first years. The ones who are gonna be under like kind of like the juniors now. Um, as I go into my second year. So these first years, I got to be a support to them as a Hui leader, that gets to welcome them, ground them, and help them get ready to become teachers, educators. Some of them in this program are not even people who went through the education program. This Teach for America is literally for teachers, for people who want to become teachers. but did not do the necessary steps to become one. So this is the alternative route for it. And I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, but the steps to get to it, I did not want to take those steps. I wanted the convenient way or the way of or something else. And that's literally what pulled me into the K through 12 system. Um, I'm pretty much that's pretty much me on a summary a bit of who I am. And so now we're going to take a deeper dive into looking at the professional side of me, but more so through my school lens of Wina Intermediate School. And so to kind of give a background, like statistic background on Wina Intermediate, um, we have four administrations roles, which is the principal, vice principals, deans of students. Um, sorry, I realized I said four. It's actually three main roles, but there's supposed to be about four. There's four people in this role. Our principal is one. We have one vice principal, and then we have two dean of students. And so there's four people under this that is deemed as administration. There's supposed to be five, but unfortunately, we do not have a second vice principal. And so our principal is like balancing the vice principal and principal role, where he takes on that extra extent of leadership. under these leadership, under this leadership, we have about 150 staff, faculty and staff, whether that looks like the teachers, EAs, custodians, and other supporting staff roles that supports teachers and supports administration. We also have we had about 655 students under this, the combination of seventh and eighth graders. Pretty much it was these amounts are based on the 2022-2023 school year. And so that's pretty much what it is right now. It is meant to change as we get into the school year. And so just to dive deep into Wina Intermediate, where they stand, or where we stand actually, is that our hope is that we are to continue to take the approach that we believe that learning can occur every day in all environments. And that's the philosophy of whether it's like just like how the pandemic changed us into a distance learning. We're hoping that we can continue to show students that students can learn in all environments, whether it's distance, hybrid, or fully physical on campus, just so that we can continue to grow together and as well as allow them to have a rich learning experience, whether it's on campus or not. Um, from that philosophy, we hope to we have the vision of a pole killer, which is to achieve excellence in all that we do. And from that vision in achieving excellence, we hope to achieve excellence in these three areas, which is part of our mission, which is to provide a safe, productive learning environment, a curriculum driven by standards and the general learning outcomes, or also known as the GLOs, and have an open and timely communication with all stakeholders. That means also parents as well. Um, as I realized when we get, and so on campus, um, we're going to talk about the open, timely communication with stakeholders. And so the one stakeholder that realized is not here is parents. And that actually ties in with students. As a and so pretty much the whole idea with stakeholders is people from the community, like community partners that support education, the union like HSTA, legislators, and other DOE stakeholders such as like the superintendent or the Hawaii Teaching Standards Board or all these different education board, Department of Ed, roles that have a play and hand into how schools run. they play the communication so where it's a lot of it is a lot of top down and one way. It's not this top down, left and right, and then down up. It's not this, or even in a circle. It's not this continuous it just feels more like a one-sided, and we'll just listen and obey. Just like how for students, when it comes to teachers, they're just like, sure, I'll just obey. And even though they try to give back feedback, not a lot of it gets taken back. Um, and so pretty much the channels of communication is supposed to be this more like open, and that's why there's double-sided arrows because it represents the open communication that can continue to happen, whether it's going up, down the chain, around the chain, above the chain, outside of the box, really, to be honest. Yeah, this graph doesn't really give the justice of what open and communication, but it gives an idea of what one way could possibly look like. And like for example, administration gives us the mostly our principal gives us what we need, probably tells it to the leadership team when it comes to change. The leadership team is this cohesiveness of the different stakeholders on campus, which could be department heads, departments of different committees, heads of different departments like custodians or registrar or special education, whatever it may be. Um, and they're supposed to come together and communicate the changes of campus, figure out how to improve campus. Like their purpose of that is supposed to be that, but unfortunately, the part that fails is that whatever they discuss, they're supposed to tell us faculty and staff. They, but they don't do that. They don't really give us the details. Unless you have, there might be certain members who are willing to do that, but not all of them do. And then when it comes down to our students, it's like our students kind of get the short end of the stick sometimes, I feel. They don't always get the full, like, here's a whole stick. Like, here's your whole piece of the stick. Like, it's not like, it's like almost like communication just goes break, break, until you get to the smallest piece, and that's to the student. They don't get the full, like, transparent side of things a lot. Of course, there's certain reasons, but the parts that we're able to tell them is not always transparent enough. And that even goes well with when I say students, I also mean their parents as well. It's not always communicated well. And parents are supposed to feel that they also can contact us as a school, whoever they need to contact, and let them know what's happening. And just really having that open communication. And so unfortunately, we don't have that right now. And that's what I feel is misguiding our leadership because the diversity network is not there as strong as it should be. And so that's a little bit about the communication issue right now at One Nice Video and what it's supposed to look like. Another one is the second part is this is more so the general learning outcomes, where it's a curriculum that is driven by these GLOs. One of them is supposed so there's 6 GLOs. One is self-directed learner, be responsible for one's own learning. In other words, the child is responsible to whether or not they learn today or even for the week. No one's gonna nag them to say, "Hey, listen up. These are important for you." Which can be daunting for a kid. But sometimes they just need the guidance on what it means to be a self-directed learner, and not all the time they're told the steps. The next one is a community contributor. Understand that it's essential for human beings to work together. So that one is a little straightforward to where students need to work with, has the expectation of they need to work with others well and proficient. Be a complex thinker, demonstrate critical thinking and problem solving. This one's a little interesting for me because we want them to become complex thinkers, but yet we're not given the steps or tools or resources to demonstrate those critical thinking and problem solving skills, or even giving them the the means to know what it means to do those things. Um, a lot of it is just we'll just give you the answer because I don't have the time or the like impatience. A lot of it is being patient with them. And so pretty much that's what it is. Next is quality producers. Recognize and produce quality performance and quality products. Students are able to really recognize what quality work is supposed to look like once they're given the goals and objectives that they need to meet. Um, Producing it is on different hands, and that's because each teacher has quality defined very differently. Some might be extravagant quality, or extravagant to somebody is quality, but to somebody else is like good enough, or you should have done a lot better. So it really that one has to be is a lot clearer. It's interesting. Um, we expect students to be effective communicators. So this was the curriculum is supposed to be based off of students being able to communicate effectively. But the funny thing is that not all curriculum is based off having them communicate effectively. And what does that look like is the question. Because communicating could be like, how do I do this? Is the part of curriculum to allow them to have academic communication or have that productive humanity communication. In other words, helping others. Number 6, the last one is effective and ethical user of technology. In other words, students are expected to use any technology, whether it's or any resources that they're given, to the best of their ability effectively. In other words, it helps them learning and to grow and be mature. And ethically, they're using it the right way, the way that they're supposed to use it, and not the way that they're tempted to use it. For example, computers. You're using a computer to do your work and not just to watch YouTube videos that are not helping you do your work and or just play games that are not assisting you in building your skills. That's not using it effectively and ethically. That's what students are expected. So these are the 6 GLOs that students are expected to follow and where the curriculum is supposed to enhance. But unfortunately, sometimes the curriculum does not really enhance students to be responsible for their own learning, or sometimes it doesn't even enhance them to complex think. Sometimes it just tells them straightforward what they're supposed to think. But it's a lot of like the way the curriculum is built right now, it's not allowing them to be them. It's more so building robots, it feels like right now. And I'm about to show you how. So there is these. The other part is the curriculum is driven by standards. These are the standards based on reading, writing, and math. And so if I was a intermediate level student, um, one example of reading is that I am expected to read closely to determine what the text says explicitly and make logical inferences from it. Cite specific textual evidence when writing or speaking to support conclusion drawn from the text. When I'm thinking about this, I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And so sometimes my teachers might be like, oh, when I read a text, I'm supposed to be able to make inferences and that I'm able to cite those evidence based on my inferences and figure out the conclusions, which is the same thing for writing, where it's I'm able to write arguments to support claims and also find the relevant, sufficient evidence for that claim. This might make sense to some. This doesn't always make sense to others. And also too, it's like the question I would ask is where is this the problem solving critical thinking skills for students? Because sometimes it's just like, oh, do you agree or disagree with something? And tell us why, based on what you read. But sometimes the reading is not relevant to the student, and that's what makes it hard for them to really connect with it. Next, the numbers. If I was in grade 7, if I just choose the number system. I'm supposed to know how to apply my previous understanding of operations with fractions to add, subtract, multiply, and divide rational numbers. And then for eighth grade, once I know that, how to do that for seventh grade, I'm now supposed to all of a sudden know that there are numbers that are not rational and approximate them by rational numbers. And so it's like, wait, I just learned how to use regular numbers to multiply, divide in fractions, and now I'm learning that not everything is black and white in math. So just kind of like that different, like, okay, the curriculum is this that thing, and actually this is how our kids are being measured. It's, are you able to reach these levels, standards, and if you don't reach it, are you good enough to move on? Are you good enough to move on to be an eighth grader? Are you even good enough to move on to a high schooler? Or even good enough to determine if you are even at grade level. And a lot of the students sometimes are not. When they come to us, a lot of them are behind in their reading, behind in their writing, behind in their math. And it's because um sometimes they just either are not taking the test that they're supposed to take seriously, um, or they just don't understand what the heck they're learning or what they're trying to understand and be good at. And then the teacher has to change that thinking and fight those different mindsets. So it's all about the mindset of the child as well as the mindset of the adult. And that's something that we need to keep in mind throughout this whole time. The third part is a safe, productive learning environment. Um, what does that look like? When I think about that, I'm like, yeah, what does that look like? According to my school, to be safe, it means for yourself, others, both online and one on campus. Um, this also means that the behavior expectations, so pretty much being respectful of others, self, school, community, thinking before we act or even speak. And also be responsible in my own thoughts, actions, attitude towards school and myself, and possibly others. And so the students are expected to meet these behavioral expectations. These are the three main rules, really, of our school, or the three main behavior expectations throughout the school. And that's something that says, oh, they set the standards and the culture of what students are expected. Um, but also too, I feel that it also needs to be an expectation for teachers and adults on the campus. Because sometimes we're not safest, sometimes we're not respectful to each other, and sometimes we're not responsible. But that's a different conversation for a different time right now. But it's interesting of how we expect this for students, but yet sometimes we don't follow it ourselves. Another one is they have the expectations of being prepared, being respectful, having integrity, discipline, and putting effort. Or also known as pride. Um, and so yeah, students have to be prepared for the day. They have to show respect to others and themselves. They have to have integrity of being honest and thinking before they decide to cheat or thinking before they do anything that can ruin who their own character within school. Have the discipline and be disciplined. But the thing is that when it comes to the D part of pride, discipline, it's yes, are the kids following the rules, but also is the adults instilling those rules, enhancing those rules, enforcing those rules. And if we're not enforcing it, of course the kids are not going to listen. And also, if they do break the rules, what discipline actions are we taking that will actually effectively portray the message? And so sometimes it's inconsistent in those areas. And also, are the kids always putting their best foot forward? But also, we can't just expect the kids to do it, but the adults have to do it as well. we have to take pride to completing our best work. And that sometimes means completing our best work in our classrooms, completing the best work well amongst each other, amongst our own team. And sometimes it's interesting how these are the culture for the students, but yet it's a mistranslation when it comes to adults. That's the biggest key thing that I'm noticing and learning throughout my time at one intermediate is that we expect so much from our students, but yet it's not translating to the adults. And sometimes we forget that it's about not being in charge. Just like Simon Sinek says, is that our real job really is to not be in charge, but take care of the ones we're in charge of. And us as teachers, that means students. Coaches means teachers. Admin means everybody about under them. It's taking care of those because the right environment will bring the right outcomes. And so it's like if like for example, I seen it where because teachers did not care, students didn't care. And so that kind of like brought up a lot of things. And my students, some of them will be like telling me privately on how they wanted me to always teach over my co-teacher because they saw how much more I cared about the way I'm teaching them and making sure that they understand it more than they do. And it was it was a humbling experience for me because I had to humble myself and just be like, it's okay, we'll get through this. And also a prideful moment for me because realizing that I am putting my best foot for my students and trying to produce the best quality work, even though there were areas I knew I had to grow in, but just the fact that my students appreciated the work that I had to do. And so my question is moving away from a student perspective, um, is that enough? Is just saying, hey, we need to be a safe, productive learning environment and a curriculum driven by standards and the GLOs, great. We have the perfect school. Is that a formula to achieve and strive for success? Excellence. Is that really excellence? And those are the two I really want to focus on as we go down the line, because they will start to make sense. Because once it's because yes, communication is key in all of those things, but it's hard to communicate when you don't have a clear plan for a safe, productive learning environment and a clear curriculum. That's yes, it can be driven by those things, but also something else. Rosalind Torres talked about how where are we looking to anticipate the next change to our business model or life? Um, and she made a really good point about how we should be looking at a calendar. When I look at our school calendar, you see like, okay, it's these meetings. Um, as a school, it's meetings, it's there's some events, some fun events that are meant for the kids, like our fairs, our May days, or just different events that affect the students. But then there are ones that affect the staff, and a lot of it is more towards meetings. And it's like, is that really a change, or is that really are those meetings really helping us? Are those reading really helping us to prepare for something that needs to improve? And so it's just the interesting parts of those. And then the part where she mentioned is also, are we courageous enough to abandon a practice that made us successful in the past? And so it's looking at these things of like realizing that we need to step out of our comfort zone. And that's what I really want is what it needs to do is step out of that comfort zone of being, oh, kids need to do this, kids need to do that. The curriculum should only be by the standards, by the GLOs. No, it's stepping out of those things. Like, yes, these two has always been helping us schools be better, but it's like, what is going to take us to the level of excellence? And that's the part that we need to talk about more is the risk taking part of actually doing it rather than just like, oh, okay. Yeah, we can just improve on more testing or improve on more, teachers, you need to do this more. And it's like, wait, we need to do it at school though. Or the students need to learn better. And it's like, students are, but what are we doing as as a cohesiveness? And so that's the part that really is the main focus as we go into it. And so this is where we can more dive into the actual part of the plan. And like, and this is where the title comes from. Time for the heart and mind. In other words, focusing on being learner centered through a competency based perspective throughout all departments. Literally, that's how we can change it and answer the question: is it enough? The answer is no. It's not enough to just be safe because of rules and regulations. No, it's not. We're not being productive if we're just only driven by standards and goals, GLOs, that doesn't even give the keys and answers for our students. Um, and also too, the way we're gonna do it is it's time for leadership above students, which is literally everybody, even from parents all the way to the DOE stakeholders that is above our administration. It's time to practice empathy and perspective. It's time to realize that the success of a student should not just be based on grades, should not just be based on how good are they during the day. It should go beyond that. Um, I'm gonna give an example on what I mean by that. Um, Principal Linda Clark Wayman once said, "As we lead, we must never forget that every single one of our students is just a child." Exactly, they're just a child, often scared by what the world tells them they should be, and no matter what the rest of the world tells them they should be, we should always provide them with hope, our undivided attention, unwavering belief in their potential, consistent expectations, and we must tell them often, if nobody told them they love them, today, remember, we do. We always will. And that's exactly what my students love about me, was that. And honestly, I was so grateful to hear that from her, knowing that me as a teacher, personally, I take on the responsibility of telling my kids, you are amazing and I love you for it. And just like even when they ask me, they're like, Miss, you love me, right? And I'm like, yes, yes, I do. Because they need to know that. They need to know that yes, your discipline, your behavior may not be the best right now, but I still love you. Um, and also providing them with hope and yeah, the undivided attention is the key because they know when we're caring. They know when we believe in them. They know when, oh, I'm important. And also because these are just kids. They're still going through life. They're still going through whatever they're going through. But they have limited choices. We as adults have a lot more choices to make from that. And so I just want to give a sample from right here. What I mean by when I was saying that we need to start having practice empathy and perspective. And also where I'm about to start with the big scale is to start changing the departments. But there's one key right now as a smaller scale that I would really love to key focus on. And so these are two different report cards from two different students. Um, Student number one, almost all A's. They got a satisfactory in personal development and guidance, which is the advisory um period, or also known as our fifth period. And then we have student number two, where they got practically F's and D's in the core classes. The one thing that caught my attention though for student number two is Why were the electives, which is interest, art and design, and career um, tech ed, why were they the B's and the A's? What made them so different than all the others? And then also too, for this one, this student, their personal development and guidance is unsatisfactory. In other words, they did not meet the criteria of this period, which is interesting to me. Um, and here's the schedule for it. So both students are in the same class. These are classmates. They go to homeroom, period 1. They go to English, period 2. They go to science, period 3. They go to their electives, um, period 4. They go to social studies, period 5. They go to advisory, and period 6. They go to math. Um, but yet everything looks different. The question is why? Why is one student excelling and the other student failed? And these are year ends. Failed except for in 2 classes. What made those 2 classes different? That's the questions that I thought about it when as I looked through these 2 students. And but the part is, why was the personal development and guidance satisfactory for one and unsatisfactory for the other? What made them that way? What was the measurements really for this? I can tell you for advisory, we don't really have, there's not much to go off of. And so the way to solve that is making each department relevant and meaningful to students. And that's actually why this student that I talked to, why their electives were B's and A's is because they enjoyed it. They enjoyed those um electives. It was meaningful to them. It was relevant. And so it's about making each department those. But for one of them, the unsatisfactory of Department 5, of period 5, they didn't care about it. And so what needs to start happening, and that's actually the thing that we're going to attack today, is that, or what I hope to attack throughout my time, is to provide a plan that creates a cohesive, relevant, meaningful advisory period. By answering these 3 questions, what are the goals of advisory? What are the current measurements for success? And do we have a curriculum? And if not, could one be developed? And so the way we're looking at these views is in the 3 mindsets of these models. The first one is the Kaizen model or Kaizen model, which promotes the concept of the small ongoing changes and offers more benefits than infrequent and large changes. So just like how the big change is making each department relevant and meaningful to students, the small step that we're going to take is the advisory period. Because it's the one period that, as I will explain a little bit later, that didn't seem as there's no point in doing so. But the way that we're gonna start taking those steps with the mindset of the Kaizen model, but with the actions of the Kurt Lewin model, which is pretty much the process that creates what unfreezing, figuring out what needs to change, make those changes and refreeze it and see what those behavior norms. So like for example, the what needs to be unfreeze is that advisory is unmeaningful. It's like forgetful. It's not, there's no purpose. And what needs to change is to have more purpose and then freeze it to where we go and to see, okay, now that we figured out what needs to make it perfect, let's see if it works. And that's where the PDSA comes in, the Plan, Do, Study, Act comes from. Pretty much where we just had this cycle of, okay, let's make a plan, let's do it. Based on that, based on us doing it, is it study the results and continue to act upon it. And that's what continuously um improves it all. And it's just having that mindset of we need to keep improving and keep growing. So it's like the action of Lewin with a mindset of with the concepts of PDSA with the mindset of Kaizen. And that's pretty much where that's like how we're gonna attack how I feel our school needs to attack the advisory period. And so to kind of give an introduction of the what and why behind why intermediate schools find advisory important. Um so what is advisory? An advisory is a regular scheduled period of time, typically during the school day, when teachers meet with small groups of students for the purpose of advising them on academic, social, or future planning issues. So pretty much, also known as why the intermediate does it during fifth period. We do meet with a small group, um, but not like small. It'd be like pretty much our homeroom. Um, that is not part of the other curriculum enrichment programs. Because there's some students who are part of band, so they're using fifth period as band. They don't have as much of like that kind of advisory level, like normal advisory. It'll be more enrichment advisory. Or they'll be part of um tech ed enrichment, um, which is deals with like I think welding, relief, or even chorus and a couple other enrichment programs. That just like enhances those students in those skills and allows them to practice for what they need to do in the end. Um, but for a normal level, it's pretty much during fifth period with your homeroom teacher. One intermediate has said, based on our school website, is to build social emotional learning skills or SEL. What is SEL? Is the social and emotional learning is the process through which students, what we hope for is to recognize and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. So, advice was supposed to be this great period that builds these skills and helping students become better individuals. Um, that was not always the case though. And so what it advisory kind of looked like for us was Mondays. So kind of quarter one and quarter two were kind of the same. Where we go to Mondays will be social emotional learning, so SEL through a program called Second Steps, which will only take like about 8-10 minutes, sometimes more. It just depends on the teacher. uh, and we used to have intramural sports, where it's like the battle of the classes in a sport, like whether it's going to be dodgeball, football, volleyball, whatever it may be. Um, and that will happen Tuesday, Wednesday, just so we can accommodate everybody on our teams, all the teams. But if you're not having intramurals, you're in class either reading or doing math. And so it's kind of like this. Okay, you have a choice to read. And personally, in my own class, with my co-teacher, we had students read for like about 25 minutes. Some of them were faking it. So that was not really effective. And then also two Thursdays would be life skills. Um, so yeah, so it's supposed to be this time of we build Monday's supposed to build your emotional skill, like emotional learning skills. Um, Tuesday or Wednesday is either gonna be your how to work with a team or how to build your math and reading skills based on whatever the teacher has you doing. And then you're supposed to learn a couple more life skills, or which sometimes was not always the case. And then quarter three and four, we had to get rid of intramurals due to behavior reasons. And so now it became this, okay, you're gonna do still Monday was the same, Thursdays were the same, but now it's a student choice for Tuesday and Wednesdays where students are either doing STAR AR, which is reading, where they're taking reading and they're trying to develop their reading skills and read at higher levels, or math, where they're building those skills and everything else. Was still the same, but really was now more enhanced with the programs that we're using. It wasn't just a read a book or do some math worksheets. It was actually like programs that we're using for that purpose. But pretty much it was just became this cycle of not much effectiveness. And so the stakeholders that are supposed to keep fifth period effective was admin by telling coaches and counselors and teachers and support staff what to do. So admin was this great, like, okay, yes, we need an advisory so that we can build SEL. So we can move forward, do SEL, all those things. The coaches of SEL of advisory, they're the ones that were teaching, and counselors, coaches and counselors went hand in hand on how to help to tell teachers on how to do second step. Actually, coaches and counselors were the creators of the advisory curriculum now, or the advisory schedule, shall I say? They're the ones who, they're main ones. So really, if we're trying to like change anything, it's through them that needs to get changed. And then we just had supporting staff of like if we need to use the library in fifth period, or it just really depends on what supporting staff we need at the moment or supporting resources. And then students, of course. Students are a stakeholder because we need them to do it. Um, and but also too, advisory was supposed to be this time of where students can also learn other things and they get to choose. But unfortunately, there's the one stakeholder that hasn't really gotten a say in a lot of it. And I'm going to show you how. When I ask students, or even during my own observation of the students during fifth period, students analysis of advisory, the number one thing they say is it's not graded or it does not affect my GPA. So who cares? Why do I need to do this? Why do I need to do that? This class is not graded. It's not gonna affect me. So why? They would tell me it's boring or meaningless. Like, I don't care about this. How is this relevant to me? And I do agree with them. Um, or they're like, I just don't care. Or a lot of them did. They're like, we did this last year. Why are we doing it again? Um, Especially the second steps on Mondays. It would be Mondays were the biggest ones because they're like, we're doing these lessons. This is so boring. There wasn't much engagement. And then it became a thing where they just said the moment fifth period shows up, once it gets more deeper into the quarter or the semester, they're like, can we just do back work for classes that we are missing assignments for? Like, can we just do that? Like, who cares about, like, can we just do that? I don't care about anything else. I just want to do my work. And that became a thing, literally. And so it became hard to do advisory in the most effective way. And then you got teachers. Um, Literally the top three actions of teachers was teachers don't put so much effort in these advisory level things. Like they were not wanting to put the effort to do more things to ensure that students are able to come to their class and do social emotional learning, um, or even build life skills, or even an effective way of building their reading and math skills. There was just none of those things. It was just okay, fine. Sometimes we'll finish the assignment, like the second step, curriculum in like 5 minutes. Like, what are we supposed to teach today? Okay, we're gonna teach you on how to vision yourself being a better person. That would take less than 5 minutes, or something less than 10. Um, and it was just really like, okay, we're done. That's it. Okay, free time. And then it became meaningless for them to do it. Because why? No, there's no accountability or measurement. There was nobody saying, "Oh, you know what? Your class did not do this. So can you please do this?" Um, I see that this person got it, but this person didn't. There was none of those things. And because why? The grades were literally satisfactory and unsatisfactory. And then, but also too, and that's the reason why I found it interesting when I saw unsatisfactory for one of my students, because I'm like, we became the class that really just did back work. And maybe it's because she just did nothing in that class. She just put her head down for most of the time. Um, or that student just really just did whatever they wanted to do. Um and that teacher, the teacher who is grading them for the advisory, is saying, you know what, that's not that. They did not meet the standards. But the question to me was, what standards? We never gave them a standards. And so that's the part that really does need to change. And so to answer the third question, do we have a curriculum? We didn't really have a curriculum. There was no, I mean, there kind of was, but there's not really. Um, but the advisory vision, as I just learned, was that there is going to be a change in advisory to make it more interventional and quite a few other things. Is that we're supposed to now change it to where it's gonna be in response of us being a CSI school, which is one that is an intervention supported, I think it's cooperation support intervention school. Um from the state, the fact that because of our low scores in reading and math, according to our state smarter balanced assessment, or standard based assessment, more so should I call it. Um so for example, according to our subjects, ELA and math teachers will be focusing on skill interventions. A heavy emphasis now. It's going to get measured through standards based on the programs that our kids have to do, and that us teachers are also teaching them. So, like for example, if me as a math teacher, I need to teach my students fractions, I will have to teach them fractions or help them with wherever they're at. So it's like meeting the students where they're at on the classes that they're struggling in, or the ones who are advanced. How can I push them forward? How can I help them grow? So really, it's more on those kind of levels. The social studies teacher, and this is like us rotating kids, um, is to build. They're the ones who are responsible to build the SEL skills and also college prep skills. Um, and while the science teacher, as in our rotations, um, like for example, um, Mondays we might have our homerooms. And then Tuesday we have a different class, and then Wednesday different class, Thursday different class, and so it's like these just rotating of Monday through Thursday, because that's when we have fifth periods. Fridays we do not have. So this is based on the Monday through Thursday schedule. Um, in my response to this, when I first heard about it, was this is a great start of making it meaningful. But the question is, how are we going to measure it for SEL and life skills? how are we really measuring it? And these are what I'm suggesting is that yes, keep the ELA and math skills interventions because students do need us teachers need to meet our students where they're at based on this is where competency base comes in. Meeting the students where they're at, building that, but however, we're not just gonna go, okay, this is how you do fractions, this is how you do addition, this is how you multiply. Okay, cool, you got the skills, okay, move on. No, that's where we're missing. That's the part that's actually missing from the advisory. Because they're telling us that math and English you can't do project based or you can't do big things. They just want you to focus on the skills. They just want you to teach it. They just want you to be in small groups. They want you to do um they just want you to work with students. But it's like, can we make it more meaningful? Is always the question for me. And the way I would love to see it is that with a touch of building SEL, whether it's working in groups on how to like how to build a bridge or how to make a cube to where you understand volume or even like to understand fractions. Let's get some candy or something. Like let's look at a pizza. Like, just connecting with those and even life skills. Connecting those where it makes it relevant because once you make those connections, once you make it relevant, once you make it relatable, students are able to make a connection and they will remember those skills. They're like, I remember fractions because based off of like a pie or something I drew or something like those kind of things that they can be proud of. Um, and one way that we can measure these is through either they create projects or portfolios to show growth in their SEL and life skills, and also so students just get a say on what they want to learn. In those classes, in the SELs, in the life skills. We know that the ELA math might be a little different, but what they can have a say on is how they want to get taught these skills. If they want to like, can we go outside and learn? Can we do something like this? Can we do this? Like giving suggestions how they want to learn those skills. Now that's something that they should have a say on. And that's how we make it a little bit more student centered. And also too, especially in more relations of their culture, identity, and future. And their present even. Because they're the ones who have to do it. They have to endure it. So that's the thing that leads to a lot more suggestions. And so in conclusion, um, we need to start creating a space for better communication. Um, understand that we have to push beyond our norm and definitely meet the minds and heart in advisory. In other words, meet the mind of yes, the students need the skills, but also connected with their heart, which is them personally. Once we do that, once the mind and heart can come together, we can create. Let's do that. Let's put the mind and heart together to create. And so I just want to say thank you for listening. And I hope you have a wonderful time and have a great one.